All right, guys, welcome back to part 5 of the Trackhawk 300 build. A lot has been going on these past couple weeks, waiting on parts especially. So all these more power boxes, we'll go through them in a minute. I want to go over the wheel setup. So at first, we had these wheels on here. These were the factory Trackhawk wheels. They are 295 45/20s, and they sat way too big on the car. So I had 2 extra spare wheels off a different Trackhawk. So I took these and I wrapped them in some Nitto 555Rs. And these are 295 35/20. So as you can see, they sit a lot better, and we still have enough clearance to drop some more if I wanted to. But now the issue that we're having is that the suspension is sitting too forward. So here I got about 5 fingers. It's supposed to be about 4. So this has to back up about a ½ inch. So we're deciding whether we should move the complete suspension with the engine and the cradle back some more. But if we do that, then we have to cut into the seat mounting point, which is that screw over there. And I don't want to do that because right now the clearance and the way everything's sitting is perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the lower control arm to back up a bit because it doesn't have to go that much. So if we back that up about a ½ inch on each side, let me show you the other side. Same thing, it will sit perfect. I've been seeing the comments on the last video and people were telling me that the engine is sitting way too far back. And honestly, it isn't, because on the Trackhawk and Durangos, they sit at an angle just because if you look at the front, I have all this stuff in the way. The oil pan can't sit like flat because it has the transfer case and the axles, so it sits at an angle. So that is perfect. That's exactly how the Trackhawk look. We do have a Hellcat back there somewhere I can show you later, but that's not an issue at all and everything's gonna work fine. So this bar over here, as you can see, it's touching the top of the top of the supercharger. So we're gonna have to notch it. This is later on, but we're gonna have to notch it just so this can clear and these 2 screws can tie down. So let me go through the parts. I'll talk about what we're doing with the radio here in a second. This is the radio of the Trackhawk. In this box, we have the supercharger cooler. I don't want to take it all the way out, but that's the supercharger cooler, and that is going to mount over here on the driver's side. And this box, this is the cooling system of a Charger Hellcat, so that's what we're going to be using because the cooling system of the Trackhawk is way different and it's going to be too close to the motor, so we ended up going with that. This thing over here was almost $2,000. And then in here, this is all from the dealer. This is a lower radiator hose. This part goes to the reservoir, which is right over here. This is also off a charger, so that other hose will plug right in there. This over here is the bracket for the supercharger reservoir. I think I already talked about the struts and what we did to them. So before, this thing was sitting like 6 inches high, if not more. So I went with aftermarket Charger all-wheel drive coilovers, and this thing sits perfect. Like I said, I still have some more room to adjust if I wanted to, but these are aftermarket and you can adjust the way it rides right there. But this bracket will take off these 3 nuts, and this will sit just like that. And then the reservoir will go right here, and then the supercharger lines will come to the reservoir, then all the way down to the cooler. So that's that. This over here is a hose that goes to the pump, the supercharger pump. We are going to be using the supercharger pump off the Trackhawk, which is right over there. The pump on the Trackhawk will be on the right-hand side, but we're moving everything over to the driver's side. So that will mount, where's the bracket? To this bracket. There's a lot of stuff going on here. This bracket is where the supercharger pump will mount, and this will go to the rebar once we get that installed. So that's that. And then over here, these are the 2 lines that go to the supercharger. These are also off a charger. And then this small one goes to the supercharger reservoir that I just showed you. Excuse the compressor noise in the background. So this will go like that. We gotta take these off. These are still off the Trackhawk. These will plug in there. This one will go to the reservoir. And then these have 2 other lines that go to the cooler, which I'll show you here in a second. This is like $4,000 of parts just in this little area. So this stuff is adding up. This is another Oh, this hose goes to, I'm trying to figure out, I think this one goes to the heater. Yeah, this goes to the firewall. That goes to the firewall. These are the ones that run underneath the core support, and they go to the cooler, which is in this box over here. I'll show you guys in a second. So that's one. And this is the one that runs to these two lines off the supercharger, and they go down and they meet with the cooler in this box. These over here, I'll show you what these do. So on the Trackhawk, the two lines, let me see if you can see this. The two lines that go to the heater core, I don't have the heater core plugged in this car, but they go over here. On the Chargers, Challengers, and 300s, these go down the middle. We do have to take the supercharger off to change these, but instead of it meeting down to the right side, they'll meet in the middle. And then the hoses, which are here somewhere, this one and this one, will go from these two lines. This is the back. They go from this one to the heater core, which is right over here. Well, no, if that's a Trackhawk one. The 300 one is somewhere over here. Oh, right there, against that wall. So that will be the one that we're using. Honestly, the one that came off the 300, we threw in the garbage. That one's off a charger, but it's gonna work the same. But that's it for this box. Oh, and this is the upper radiator hose. This is the reservoir. And this is another hose that we're gonna figure out later. So these are all for the cooling system. Everything back in this box for now until we're ready to get this stuff installed. I am missing the bracket that goes over here. There's a bracket that's gonna hold, that's not it, but there's a bracket that holds the sensor for the intake, and it routes all the way down here, and this will plug into it. I still have to order that. What are these? Put these lines back. All right, and then in here, this is the fuel line. Oh, the fuel line. This is what took like 3 weeks to come in. So this fuel line is gonna go to the pump. We had to reorder this twice because we ordered the wrong one the first time. But this so these are red-eye pumps. I know at first we installed the Trackhawk ones, but the supply for the fuel was gonna be on the wrong side. It was gonna be on the driver's side. And then we ordered a custom fuel line, which is in this box over here. And then we're planning to just make a custom fuel line to go from the passenger side or from the driver's side to the passenger side all the way down to the engine. But then we thought that was gonna be way too risky. So we ended up ordering an OEM set of red-eye pumps, which had the same connector as a Trackhawk. My bad, video cut off. But these are OEM pumps off a Demon, Red-Eye. They're both the same. And they have the same plug off a Trackhawk. And this will route just like OEM. So this is gonna be the supply for the fuel. And this will run underneath the gas tank. We still have to drop the gas tank again to install this hose. This thing was 500 bucks, bro. $500, because at first I ordered just a regular Hellcat one, and the Hellcats plug in like this, right? As you can see, the red-eye faces a different direction, and if I was to turn this, then I was gonna have issues with my fuel level gauge not reading properly. So I didn't cheap out and I bought this. So this is gonna plug right in there. As you can see, it has a right bend, and this part will bend and plug right in here, right in this place. So this is gonna run on the passenger side of the car, and that part will connect to the fuel rail, which is on this side. Right into there. And this has a lot of like play in it, so if I needed to make it longer or shorter, right there, I can adjust it how I want. If that doesn't work, then we have to change the fuel rail to a Charger fuel rail, which we have somewhere here. Somewhere over here. But I don't think we're gonna have to do that because the fitment will be the same. dash. We were able to make the dash work. Let me show you the cluster. This is the cluster off a 300. This is the face of the Trackhawk. So I took them off. I didn't record this part, honestly, because I'm gatekeeping most of this stuff. So nobody would be able to replicate this build. And as you can see, I made it fit with the factory screw holes. I already put this on, but this is gonna come back off because I have to take it off again. And that's the Trackhawk cluster in there. It is scratched up, but it's gonna work fine. The next part is gonna be figuring out the radio. So this is the Trackhawk radio. The 2019s and up sit flush with the screen or with this bezel. The 18s had like this indentation inside of it. So I gotta, where did the bezel go? Where did I put it? You're looking for Zane? Where did it go? I just had it. Oh, it's right there. So this is the one off of 300. I gotta take this part off, which has small screws in the back of it, and then somehow make it work on this one. So we're gonna have our factory like SRT pages and all, and this part will clip right in there once it's done. Well, that's something we'll work on later because we still got to figure out all the wiring inside this car. So that's gonna stay there. This is the center console off the Jeep. We're gonna have to take off the harness and then use that harness inside of a 300 center console. This part over here runs to the passenger side seat, which is right over here. It's gonna run and plug in right over there. And that's about it. The wiring, we had it laid out. So this is the Trackhawk wiring. This harness, see how it's taped together? Because the second harness on the Trackhawk runs underneath the car. So instead of doing that, we ran it together from inside. I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do with that square there in a second. So I taped this together. And for the most part, honestly, it's not that bad. Like this, on the Chargers, will like sit flush right over here. On this, it doesn't have that much play. So I might, if I really wanna do it, like make it look greater than this, I would have to chop this and extend it back here, but there isn't that much play because it's all tied in right there. But even the grounds, like the grounds for the airbag and stuff, they line up pretty good. Oh, steering column, let's talk about that real quick. Get this out of the way. Okay, so this steering column is off a Charger, and this is gonna have the power tilt because the 300 one, that's the motor for the power tilt, and that's the other motor. The 300 one was a manual tilt, so I wanted to make it OEM because the Trackhawk one is a power tilt, but it has different monopoints to the dash, so we couldn't make that work. But after doing some research, the plug that goes on these motors is the same plug that goes on the Charger. So if you look at this one, I know it's pretty dark in here, same plug. So that's gonna be a plug and play install. The next tricky part is gonna be figuring out the steering column, because obviously it's not gonna line up like OEM. So here is a steering shaft. That's a steering shaft for the Jeep. Right over here. And look at the hole for the 300. So see how it's like off? So we're probably gonna have to re-drill a hole over there, line up the steering column, and then, oh, actually I ordered this custom steering shaft because this is too wide and it's hitting into the exhaust. So we're gonna get a custom one made, and then it's gonna run right into the steering column, and then we're gonna have steering. And then lastly, the engine bay. So the harness, this is all Trackhawk stuff. So this is a Trackhawk harness. This is Trackhawk fuse box. I already just sat it down, just like temporary, to look at how it's gonna be. And this is how it looks like on the Trackhawk. The harnesses run on top of the strut towers on both sides. So you have one over here, and then you have one over there. And at first I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of all that. I'm gonna reroute it just so it sits like underneath the fuse box. But honestly, it doesn't hurt anything by staying that way. So that one's gonna stay over there. And then this side is gonna stay over there. But this square, this thing, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do. We're gonna have to cut a hole in here, like the size of this. And this is gonna clip in right under the cabin unit and run underneath the dash to the rest of the harness throughout the car. So that's gonna get cut. And then this over here, this bushing, we took it off the old harness. I'm telling you, man, there's a lot going on. This is the old bushing. So we're gonna run the harness through this, and that is gonna stop like air and stuff from coming into the car. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff going on. That's the old PCM for the Trackhawk. As you can see, it's bent from the accident because it was hit right over here. I have a new PCM. I'm trying to cover all this in one video. Where's the new PCM? New PCM. That's the charger harness. So this part is gonna replace this. So on the Jeeps, Durangos, Trackhawks, the thermostat housing faces to the driver's side. On the Chargers, Challengers, 300s, it faces to the passenger side. So we're gonna replace this. That way we can use the factory cooling system off of Hellcat, and they'll give us a lot more clearance because this bolt is like almost touching the core support. So once we change that, then that'll solve this whole issue about being too close to this. Then if anything, honestly, we could cut this part out because there's nothing over here, and then we'll have enough clearance and not have to mess with the whole core support. But this is the ground strap for the PCM, and this is the new PCM. So I have to take both of these up to Livernois, and then they're gonna clone this one, take all the information off that, put in this one, and that's gonna start the car right up. Put this back in here. And the last thing I'm gonna show you guys is the rear. Keep that there for now. Like I said, everything is still temporary. Nothing is bolted down as of yet, but I'm planning to have all the modules just like laying down, like organized, and have all the harnesses run into it. That way, if I ever need to service anything, everything is gonna be just over there. The battery is gonna be over here, just like the regular Chargers, Hellcats. And then the dash. Let me guys show you the skeleton off the dash. We still have to use the harness, which is right over here. That's a dash harness, and we're gonna route it on the Chrysler skeleton. The only problem is this one is rusted out. As you guys know, the 300 was flooded. So I'm gonna use a Charger skeleton that I have in my garage that is the same thing. And then it's gonna look a lot better than this. This is rusted out like a mother. Look at that. So we'll change that out, put the harness through it, and then this will marry to this, and then that will go inside the car. So next part is gonna be putting the car back on the hoist. We're gonna do the steering shaft. Once it comes in, we're gonna do the lower control arms, and then literally work our way up. It could start the way it is. Everything is plugged in. All the modules are plugged in. Once I get the PCM clone, this car can fire right up, and then we just gotta finish the interior and go from there. I hope I covered everything. I know there's a lot that I haven't recorded these past couple days, but we're getting somewhere. Hopefully within the next two parts, this car will be running, at least, probably not driving, but running until we get the steering column figured out, and then we'll get on to the next part.